Hello and welcome to Pardon My Disruption. I am Alan Berkson, the Director of Community Outreach for Fresh Desk, and I'm joined, as always, by the Dr. Disruptive, Jonathan Yarrmis.
Howdy, Alan.
Hey, Jonathan. We are here the second Friday of every month. Our next show will be a special occasion. July 8th, it will be our next show, and that is?
It's my 61st birthday. I don't look so bad for 60.
No, you're well preserved.
Oh, we're going to start the show off like this.
So it's been
let's at least talk, where we are.
Of course.
Yeah, because
it is a beautiful day.
It really is beautiful.
We are broadcasting live from the Stamford Innovation Center in beautiful downtown Stamford, Connecticut. It is a beautiful sunny day out today. And Lady Liberty is looking down on us. You see Lady Liberty, wait, right here. You see Lady Liberty's foot.
If we could get our cameraman to pan up.
Yeah, can you? No.
No.
So I think we have to start everybody knows we're New York sports fans. And I think we have to start off the show today with a moment of, not a moment of silence. I don't think silence would be appropriate for this. No. But a moment of reflection.
Yeah, and Connecticut sports fans in particular.
Oh, that's right.
There is a Connecticut connection.
Yeah.
It was announced this morning that Gordie Howe, the hockey legend, passed away. I believe he was 88 years old. Played as recently, probably as about 3 years ago. Only a slight exaggeration. The Connecticut connection is Gordie actually played for the Hartford Whalers for a brief period of time with his sons, Mark and Marty. You don't often see that with athletes. Yeah. His son, was also an all-pro defenseman, and Marty, made it to the NHL, but they played on the Hartford Whalers together with Dad. And Gordie is perhaps best known, hockey. You score 3 goals in a game, that's known as a hat trick. The Gordie Howe hat trick was in a single game, you get a goal, an assist, and a fighting major.
Oh, those were the days.
Yes. Yes.
I went to a boxing match and a hockey game broke out.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So back in the days when there were only 6 NHL teams, I don't know if you're old enough to remember those days, but I still remember Saturday night hockey with Jim Gordon and Bill the Big Whistle Chadwick on WOR doing Ranger games. The intro music was King of the Road by Roger Miller.
There's baseball, football, basketball, and hockey.
Subterranean.
For me.
Yeah.
For me.
And NASCAR even further down. Yeah.
What's
you
that?
Can spell that. Yeah.
I can spell NASCAR. Yeah. Although, because thinking like the NBA, I think we have to start to wear sponsor patches.
Well, you saw. Yeah.
This is.
Yeah. You're working on it.
I'm working. No, but I think that we should have those.
Yeah. Any vendors watching, we are open to offers.
That's right. We can be sold, and we're not expensive.
Oh, I beg to differ.
So a lot going on in tech. I think let's start with what's coming up.
Next week?
Next week is the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference. What do they call it when there's a bellwether for consumer tech?
I hope not.
It has been.
Yes, that's why I hope not. Because
it has been. But that's the change, yeah.
Yeah, boy, is this perhaps going to be a really boring WWDC. And unless Tim Cook surprises us, the big news, the thinking about what's coming down the road from Apple next week, maybe they're going to rename the desktop operating system Mac OS to align itself with iOS.
Right.
When that's the big frenzy that you've got a problem. A lot of the other things that we're talking about are catch-up things. So maybe Siri gets more capabilities because they're to some degree lagging Google and Amazon and,
not even
and
to
even
some
Microsoft.
degree. I would argue to a large degree. They're certainly lagging Google, and Microsoft is right there, and Amazon may be coming around and passing everybody.
Yeah. I think what Amazon's doing with the Echo, and as we talked about last month, I've got the Echo Dot, and continue to be impressed by its capabilities at so many levels, to a point where, you know, I live alone. I'm convinced my neighbors, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I was in Starbucks yesterday, and they, you know, you give a name to get your coffee, and they yelled out Alexa, and I'm like, oh, that poor woman.
Vendors, here's a trick. Start having TV commercials that go, Alexa, order my product. Hijack the device. But even more troubling, though, in my mind, you know, Apple, yes, has been, if not a leader, a fast follower, market ratifier, market exploder of so many things. And one of the trial balloons, and I can only hope it's a trial balloon that Apple floated a couple of weeks ago, was, you know, these days it's kind of every other year Apple has a major refresh of, you know, the phone hardware and stuff like that, you know, and in the off years, you know, some incremental upgrades. They've signaled that maybe they're going to do those major upgrades every 3 years instead of every 2. Yikes! You know, I mean, this is a company
that's the accelerating pace of innovation. Oh, wait, no, that's not.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, are they trying to set really low expectations so when they continue to maintain the existing pace, everybody goes, wow, look, you know, look, Apple's ahead of its schedule. I mean, this is a company that has forever, I remember in the late 80s, doing analysis on the percentage of revenue Apple derived from products introduced within the last 12 months. You know, in an era when refreshes weren't as significant as they are now, just because paths to market are so much quicker. But this is a company that's always been the one who's pushing the envelope, making significant upgrades, surprising people with things. And unless there's a real surprise next week, you know, this is something that my biases are well known. There are things, you know, I'm not in love with about Apple. You know, their control over the ecosystem. Although, interestingly, in the last,
but that's the double-edged sword with Apple. That's a flaw and a huge benefit.
Yes, but now we see the flaw side of it. The huge benefit is if they're not continuing to push the pace of innovation. You know, at this point, it used to be I had some degree of iPhone envy. You know, I've been an Android user for a long, long time.
Did you ever have an iPhone?
No, no. You know, I've had Windows phones back when Microsoft was actually in that business. You know,
did you have a Zune as well?
I did not. My son did, and was very happy with it. You know, but I had Rhapsody Unlimited. I was an unlimited music subscription player back when everybody was buying things a la carte. And a friend of mine, Jack Foreman, you know, always thought I was crazy. You know, that subscription model is never going to work. And it took a while, but you know, everybody's coming around to it. And that may be one of the things that gets announced next week, some refresh in Apple's whole approach to iTunes and music and how you pay for it and get it and so on. But you know, these are all things that are incremental and catch up and very un-Apple-like. And you know, yeah, they've still got, you know, enormous cash hoard. You know, I mean,
and they still make enormous profits.
Yes, yes. You know, but these are troubling signs that say if they're not on the pace, you look at the things that Apple has lagged in, and you know, almost every next generation technology, search, natural language processing that we're talking about, augmented or virtual reality, cloud computing, social. You know, Apple is a virtual non-presence or significant laggard in all of these next generation technologies.
And the significance of it also is the fact that they're the new interfaces. Voice is becoming the prominent.
I wouldn't say the prominent,
but it's moving. It's gaining in prominence in terms of it, as a user interface. You know, that whole, you know, when we grew up, science fiction was everything was voice.
Yes.
And computers would respond, and we're kind of there.
Yeah,
and,
voice
but
and
Apple,
gesture. And,
right,
yeah.
But Apple is not there. And the things, and you talk about the ecosystem. Look, what I love about the Apple ecosystem is my iPhone works with my Mac, and my whole family, it all connects together, and it's one big happy family. We buy apps and we buy music, and it all works. But now I've got, if I get my Amazon Echo or I get my Google device, or Apple's not there. But if I get Android on my phone, then it becomes part of that. You know, so that's a chink in the armor. That's a crack.
An interesting statistic along those lines is last quarter, Google Chromebooks outshipped Apple laptops. Apple shipped 1.75 million laptops in the last quarter. You know, Google and its partners shipped 2 million Chromebooks.
Chromebook is a massively underrated device. It's one of those things that just works.
It's outshipping Apple laptops. Who would have believed, you know, I saw that stat and it was like, could that really be right?
That's because you can get 10 Chromebooks for the price of an Apple laptop.
Yes, and there used to be reason to pay that premium. You know, that's the challenge with Apple's lack of innovation. They command, you know, an amazing premium, which is why they've got so much money and such awesome profitability.
Well, there's two pieces there though, because if you go on the Apple site to buy a MacBook, which I did in the not too recent past, I mean, not too.
Yeah, you got that right.
I don't. They're selling 2012, 2014 technology, and people are buying it, and that's because the incremental value of the improvements is not there.
Right. When all you're doing is running a browser, you don't need more memory, more processing.
And you barely notice the difference in the screen.
Right.
Tell me that, you know, what do they call they have their displays, they call them their retina.
Yeah. Well, you're talking to two guys who wear glasses.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe 25-year-olds see the difference.
Right. That's
not
true.
Me.
That's true.
Yeah.
But so the fact that they're making money selling computers that are 4 years old, brand new, there's something, meaning 4-year-old technology as new computers. That's a challenge, or that's a sign that value chain for laptops, and we see this in general, but particularly for Apple, that's a challenge. That's a problem.
Yes. You know, and Chromebooks, you can get them for $200. You know, get a fully equipped machine that can do everything you do on a regular basis.
And you talk about envy. I went from BlackBerry to Apple, and that was like going from, I remember describing it as going from seeing in black and white to seeing in color. And I chose the Apple because it just works. And that, to a certain extent, still happens, except for the fact that after 2 years, my battery doesn't really work very well anymore. So now what do? I have to pay $100 to get a new battery. But the thing about my phone now is I actually have Android envy. I do look at the functionality. I do look at the value you're getting in the current class of Android phones. And I say, well, you know, my next phone, is it going to be an Apple or is it going to be I think about that. But what holds me back is my investment in the
There's a switching cost.
Yes.
There's a switching cost.
Yes.
But that's one of the things I find interesting about Samsung versus Apple. Apple has a tradition of coming out with a product and getting it so right that they don't have to worry about anything else. Samsung throws 6 different things out there and says, whichever one starts working, we'll double down on that. So they're talking about a flip phone and the return of that. They're talking about bendable screens, you know, and Samsung will throw those things out, and when something works, they'll bring it to market reasonably quickly, and that's why they've been able to achieve such an interesting position. You know, they were the first one with big screens, phablets, you know, those kinds of things, and it's all because they put a bunch of form factors out there where Apple has always been, we know what's best, and you can have anything as long as it's black.
But they also extended the ecosystem, because my Samsung television is, I would choose Samsung now for a television.
Yes.
Because I like this, they got the smart features right.
Yes.
And it works. I'm watching YouTube on my phone, and I pop it right up to the screen.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do that from my iPhone, but Samsung got the home use right.
Yeah, they're getting it better and better and better. Another area, that I think that transitions us to talk a little bit about Google with, Tony Fadell leaving, he of Nest.
I was going to say, explain to people who Tony Fadell is.
Yeah, he, former Apple guy, worked on the original iPod, started Nest and with the home thermostat and so on. And Google acquired the company a few years back, and just recently announced that he is leaving Google. And I think it raises some questions about how fast that market's growing. Is Google dissatisfied with the growth? But it also points out, it's interesting that, like so many things, I go back to my Gartner days and the hype cycle, where we go through this period, of accelerating hype, reaching what we call the peak of inflated expectations. Then we lapse over into the trough of disillusionment until we arrive at the plateau of enlightenment. And with Internet of Things, I think we're getting close to the peak of inflated expectations, where we want to have everything internet connected. In fact, I just this morning looked at a Wall Street Journal video where they were talking, and I kid you not, an internet connected tampon. Yes, that tells you when you need to replace it. Not you, but yeah.
It needs to be replaced.
Yes, yes. Now, if it could help in the supermarket aisle when you're looking at the dizzying array of choices, and you were able to say, what is it that my wife or significant other uses?
That's just TMI.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That would be hugely useful. But we're at a point where,
well, not only that, but you see, the old adage was, it's time to sell when the shoe shine boy is giving you stock tips.
Yes.
On the counter in the drugstore, which is the impulse purchase, are IoT controllers.
Yes.
And no name, generic IoT controllers.
Yes.
That's that peak.
Yes, it is upon us. And the challenge, what I see happening, everybody's saying, Google's failed at the home. We've overdone these things. What do you really need an internet connected thermostat for anyhow? Can't you just lower it yourself? I've got a little yellow sticky on my door that says thermostat that reminds me when I walk out of the apartment, should I turn down the thermostat? And that costs, 0.3 of a cent, as compared to, a $250 thermostat. But don't take this to say, gee, this isn't going to work. I firmly believe that.
Well, there's a novelty value, and then there's a novelty. I won't even say value. There's novelty, and then there's value.
Yes, and there's a couple of things we'll pay for. We'll pay for convenience. We'll pay for hard economic savings. And my electric bill last month was about $150. If a smart thermostat can save me $20-odd a month, it pays for itself in a year.
Right.
So I believe there's real economic value to these things, real convenience value. Having voice command, it sounds trite, but in my bedroom, I think I talked about this last month, I've got the light switch across the room. So do I want to turn the lights off? Do I want to, here's a clapper.
The original IoT device.
Yes.
Yeah,
but boy, if TV can mess with Alexa, can you? Every time the clapper commercial comes on, lights in the house.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm a firm believer in, IoT impact, but this home thing is an ongoing struggle for all of the vendors. It's another sign. I wrote a blog post several years ago about Apple's failings in the home and saying this was the perfect opportunity for the old Apple would have swooped into this market, because what do? They look at things, they let other people get everything wrong. They learn from that and they come out and nail it.
So you've talked about it on the show.
Yeah, and Apple's not present in that space at all. So I think Google, taking the long view of things, which used to be a Microsoft hallmark, that Fadell's departure, while in some ways unfortunate for Google, because I think the guy clearly has vision, that this is not Google abandoning the market. I think, like so many entrepreneurs, Fadell probably got tired of working on a big company. I think he himself said, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not a maintenance kind of guy. But I still think, don't view this as Google's failed in the marketplace. I think they're going to have a renewed focus, because winning that home automation space is going to be huge. And if Apple's left a void for it that you would have thought was rightfully theirs, and Google steps in, they control a really important space.
I think how you classify things is important, and calling it home automation, I think, is the misnomer, because it's not home automation. It is a connected lifestyle.
Yes.
It's more than, because it's not just your phone, it's not just your house, it's being able to do things that, like I said, I don't know, I need a better word for it, and maybe that's part of the challenge in terms of looking at the market.
Yeah, and it's a connected lifestyle. It's a ubiquitous, always on kind of environment. That right now, a lot of our things are centered around the phone.
That sounds like a privacy issue.
What's that?
That's what our grandchildren are going to say.
Yes.
Privacy. They used to worry about this? That was a thing?
Yeah. Although that's always an interesting discussion.
But anyway, sorry, but you're talking about the...
Yeah, but it's kind of the ubiquity, because for a while, our environments have been defined to some degree by our phone, and are actively invoking something with our phone. One, we're no longer going to be tethered to the phone. It may be our gateway to a larger world, and we'll be a controller of a bunch of devices, but we're going to have lots of things that are always listening to us. Anything with a microphone and or a speaker is going to be listening.
So I have and related to that, you get epiphanies. So I have I'm driving a hybrid car. The key doesn't have a key.
Right.
You just have to have this key on you. I had locked my car. I forgot that I locked it, and I went to open it, and it opened. You hear the unlock thing, and it's that sense of my life functions the way it used to happen, but it happens automatically.
Well, or related to that, what's really interesting, a couple of years ago, Mini, the car manufacturer, did an interesting thing on the 101 in the Bay Area. They had a billboard, and when you were driving by, it would recognize your key fob transmitter and say, "Hey, Alan, have a nice day."
That's great, but to me, that's because you talk about a phone. I have to actively do stuff.
Yes.
And I think this transition from active to passive is a big deal. So that's the ubiquitous. Automation is part of it, but it's also anticipation. I can pre-program my lifestyle to work the way I work, and even have it figure out the way I work.
Yes, and it will be predictive. It'll just happen. Google has something with Google surveys, and there are a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, but what happens when your refrigerator says, "No, you really don't want to have that ice cream"?
And your insurance company says, if you don't, I'll give you a 3% discount on your premium.
Right, or if you could see the cost of your insurance premium go up for everything. You put that fatty stuff or you put the heavy stuff in your refrigerator, and suddenly your insurance premium will go up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that outrageous. Depending upon your perspective, it's a truly terrifying dystopian future. Or why wouldn't I do that? Right now, insurance things, if you're a young, reasonably healthy person, you're carrying me. You're paying in premiums, and I'm, getting to that age when I'm going to be taking them out of the system. And, and we've got equality. Should we pay commensurate with our controllable risks or our uncontrollable risks? As I know more about my genetic makeup, there are a whole bunch of issues that this technology raises. We've talked about that with self-driving cars. No.
But it's cool.
Yeah, but there are a whole bunch of issues that it raises, that are, it's funny. I often make the observation that we overstate the impact of technology in the short term, but actually understate it in the medium term. This stuff that sounds so far off in the future is really only a couple of years away. In fact, you see people doing things like this now. Snapshot from Progressive. You get a car discount, an insurance discount if you drive safely by their definition.
Right.
I downloaded an app and removed it after a little while that rated me on my driving.
I'm waiting for the first lawsuit against Progressive when somebody gets into an accident and they were driving according to the specifications of the app.
Yes.
And they still got into an accident and they're going to sue them.
Right.
Right or wrong.
Yes.
It's going to happen.
Yes. Lawyers are full employment act. Right.
All right. One of our favorite whipping boys, or whipping post, Twitter.
Actually, something good to say about them this month.
Yeah.
There were rumors some months back that they were going to eliminate the 140 character limit and go to 10,000. Fortunately, sanity prevailed, and they found a reasonable way to get beyond 140. And that was basically, don't include links in the 140 character count. That there are times with links, we are using up a significant portion of our count that left less room for insight and commentary. And so they've extended it, and I applaud them for that.
Although if they ever get rid of the 140 character limit, I will have I'll have a skill that is no longer valuable, which is the grammar infractions that I have to have to make it fit into 140 characters. That's a skill.
I don't know. Judging by the long form stuff I see, there are a lot of people who don't adhere to grammatical things, even in the long form of writing. Don't get me going on that one. That's a total diversion. But yes, clear and effective communications, is important, and I think giving more space for that. On the flip side, there's a side of me that says what went on yesterday in our political environment, where the Twitter shouting match between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, on the one hand, was witty and entertaining. On the other hand, this is what our political debate has come to. Twitter flame wars between presidential candidates. How really, really, really sad it is that we spend more time talking about delete your account.
But that's a symptom rather than meaning the dialogue is not about substantive issues. It's about name calling, and this is just a symptom of it. And it's an easy place to do it because you don't have to say a lot.
Yes.
You can be abrupt.
Yeah, whatever it is, I who like the brevity of Twitter in some ways lament the brevity of it when it comes to political discourse. it's unfortunate. And if this is how we're going to choose our president, heaven help us.
So isn't it just whoever has the most followers wins? Or is it the most retweets? Or likes?
Yeah, well, that's how many people measure social media success. It's actually most number of voters who go to the poll.
Who actually are allowed to vote.
Yes, allowed to vote.
And whose votes are counted.
Yeah.
Correctly.
Yeah. No hanging chads. Although going to a poll is an increasing anachronism, as people can vote in advance, can vote online, all sorts of things. But while we're talking about Twitter, I got an email notification last week from Twitter that alerted me to the fact that there was a massive Twitter breach. I forget how many, hundreds of thousands of hundreds of millions of accounts were
right. I think it was
compromised.
30-something million.
Yeah.
Compromised. 33 million or something.
Yeah. I apparently was in the 33 million.
Mazel tov.
And changed my password. Fortunately, I guess, with two-factor authentication, even if somebody had my password, they weren't going to be able to do much with it unless they figured out how to, hack the authentication too, which is much less likely. But amusingly, among the people who got hacked, Mark Zuckerberg and Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, who tweeted about his own death.
Yes, I was going to say the not dearly departed.
Yeah. There are those people who believe it was somebody from New England who did that. But change your passwords.
That's good advice.
Yes, don't use the same password on multiple accounts. Unfortunately, some years ago, I had kind of a two-tier password account. One password for all the sensitive sites and one password for less sensitive sites. And then if somebody stole one, it's like, oh my God, they've got my password for all of my sensitive sites. So I actually spent a weekend a couple of years ago changing passwords to something unique for every site, which necessitated my getting a password manager because I got tired of clicking, I forgot my password, reset my account.
Password manager has been a lifesaver. I use Dashlane.
So do I.
Use Dashlane.
Yes.
Not that we don't endorse any products, but that's just sort of a point of information. But that a password manager can make your life easier so that you don't have the same password everywhere.
Yes, and I sleep well so far, not having heard of any password managers being hacked themselves. And I live in constant fear of that, because if that happens, well, I'll have to go back to what my mother does, which is write it down in a
Why is it always the
book.
Mothers who get are the technologically less advanced?
Well, my mother,
my mother had an iPhone before I did.
Yeah, I'll give my mother a lot of credit. I've criticized her before, reboot before calling me. But Mom, for 89 years old, is really technically sophisticated. She goes back to early days of technology.
Is this her on the show?
Quite possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, but password managers to me are essential, and just hope they don't get hacked. And you start thinking, are biometrics going to replace things? And we're seeing evidence that those things are hackable too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and not just in the Minority Report way of let's take your eyeball or finger or something like that, but the systems are hackable. Even facial recognition, people holding up pictures, and the picture works.
Capacitive inks for touch.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get to some. Let's get some quick bites, because I think we got some cool stuff there. This first one, I think please.
Yeah, kind of the dream we had as little kids.
George Jetson.
Yeah, well, Larry Page of Google / Alphabet. Yeah, Rastro. Yeah. Larry Page invested $100 million in a couple of flying car startups.
So is that the peak of inflated?
Well, there are certain things that never make it to the plateau of enlightenment, or the not in my lifetime. Though I still remember, and you're probably not old enough to remember when the Astrodome opened, the flying jetpack.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a guy inside the stadium flying around with the flying jetpack, and I've always wanted one of those things. Although I've always wondered, it's like if you kind of, have flames shooting out off your back, isn't that kind of like risky if you bend your legs or?
Yeah, that's the risk, John. That's what you're worried about, right?
Well,
not being like 1,000 feet up in the air and having it fail. Yeah. It's the flames. Okay.
Well, parachutes. Yeah, there's got to be some backup system for that.
Yeah.
And I guess the problem is if you're not flying high enough.
Springs on your shoes so that when you land, you bounce.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen in the cartoons.
Yeah, or in crashing elevator. There's some book I remember that said if you time it perfectly, before the elevator hits the ground, if you jump, you can't jump that high, and you're likely to hit your head.
Not only that, but there's still, you can't change the laws of physics.
It's not just a good idea.
I believe you have some momentum that you've got to overcome.
Yes, but it sounds good. Yeah, it's kind of like if you jump high enough on a train, will the back of the train smash in? The back of the car smash into you? No.
Again, you can't change the laws of physics.
Although we keep that it used to be we thought the speed of light was an absolute, and I guess there's some increasing belief that maybe there is something faster than the speed of light.
Well, hasn't science fiction predicted every major technological innovation, and they've been predicting faster than light travel for a century almost?
Yes, they've predicted every major one, and they've predicted a lot that haven't happened. Yeah. So
that's the beauty of predictions, is that if you only talk about, everybody does that. Everybody in the beginning of the year says, here's what I predict for this year. And then the next year they say, see, I was right about this, this, and this. Or what about the other 20 things that you weren't right about?
Yeah, I'm reminded of that. I forget what I posted about recently, but several people reminded me that, and I will disavow having taken the position, even while I sustained it for longer than I should have, that OS2 was going to succeed.
OS2, half an operating system.
Yeah, not even.
No. Well, when I was working on Wall Street, there were parallel development. Just thinking about OS2, there was a team that was trying to build, they had, because we had our crazy token ring network, and then OS2 was like Ethernet. I'm like, oh wow. At the same time, though, that's when Sun shipped all these computers, and so from that perspective, in that battle, OS2 lost to Unix.
Oh. It lost everywhere.
Well, but yeah, but Wall Street, who was spending a lot of money on the bleeding edge of technology, and that was a big deal. Yeah, that's an aside. All right, other quick bites. We got to talk about Peter Thiel.
Oh.
This is probably it should be in the pet peeves section. Or the shame on you, or the
there are a lot of things here. If you're not familiar, Peter Thiel was one of the founders of PayPal, and early Silicon Valley success story, venture capitalist, and so on. And Gawker, one of the Silicon Valley rags, and I say that in the best and worst of ways.
Right.
Best of ways, it broke a lot of stories and would talk about anything without kind of the closed boy network of Silicon Valley. On the downside, it did, it had no edit function. If it found something, it put it out. And before Thiel was willing to come out publicly, he was outed as gay. And he bore a grudge to a point where you may have remember the Hulk Hogan verdict, where Gawker was found, guilty of having distributed this Hulk Hogan pornographic video inappropriately, and Hogan won a $150 million judgment or something like that. It turns out that Thiel funded the lawsuit, and has in fact funded several lawsuits against Gawker. which, depending upon your perspective, and there are a lot of people who didn't like Gawker who were thrilled by the fact that somebody was willing to go after them and go after them so aggressively. On the flip side, boy, does that send a chilling message about freedom of the press. You know, when you start funding lawsuits against media outlets, not because they were wrong,
right? Because they can't. They're gonna fail. They're gonna go under because they can't afford to fight the lawsuit.
Yes,
even if they're not guilty.
Yes, because you've got a deep pockets guy who is willing to invest hundreds of millions of dollars on a grudge against a media outlet that reported a truthful story. And so that I think a lot of us feel sympathetic toward Thiel. There are things we'd like to keep secret.
Right.
On the other hand, spending hundreds of millions of dollars, and the whole notion of a free and independent press is something that's probably a discussion for another day or another forum. With the constant attacks, on mainstream media, whether it's a leading presidential candidate or if I see one more story that says, how come mainstream media isn't covering a Bernie rally? It's like, who watches mainstream media anyhow? We've got the atomization of audiences, and I see 6 stories a day about the mainstream media not covering a Bernie rally, but saying all sorts of video about it, and no coverage of a Hillary video or something, until just in the last week, where she'd made a couple of, pretty impressive speeches. But, I think attacks on the media
that's a slippery slope.
Yeah, and we give the media constitutional protection for a reason. The founding fathers recognized that media serves an important role against.
Do you know that first case was in Westchester County?
Which?
That's for freedom of the press.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about a Peter Thiel.
No. The freedom of the press.
Huh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
There you go.
You're going to give me any more about the case?
I can't remember the case, but it actually predates the. It was in the 1700s, but it predates the Constitution.
Okay.
But it was a legal precedent.
Yeah, but I think this whole it's a scary thing when you look at what media money is doing to the influence of media. I mean, on the one hand, we've got the house organs, MSNBC and Fox. On the other hand, we've got Jeff Bezos buying the Washington Post, which you can either say, wow, he rescued a old publication that might have been in trouble, to how are they going to cover some of the things about Amazon? Is there neutrality? And then you get somebody like Sheldon Adelson, big casino magnate, buying the big Las Vegas newspaper, and making no pretense of the fact, he didn't pledge for independence. He kind of gave some half-hearted assurances, but if you're a journalist in that newsroom, are you likely to break the story? Because if you do, your career at that publication is over. It's a scary environment, but on the other hand, we've got outlets, citizen journalism is alive and well. Look at this whole Stanford rape case.
Yeah.
Something that, a few years ago, would have been buried. There would have been a 24-hour news cycle. And now you look at the things that are going on. There are people in, the judge's court being called for jury who are admonishing him, saying, I can't serve on your jury because of your egregious decision. There's a recall vote with hundreds of thousands of signatures. So I think citizen journalism is alive and well, and to support that, Twitter, there's a service called Data Miner.
Yep. That
mines the Twitter feed, and they provide insight and information to clients who want to access the Twitter feed. Twitter has now barred governmental agencies from using data miner, because the feeling was it would be used in ways that would be chilling to freedom of speech. Yeah.
Evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Use your powers for good.
Yes.
Not evil.
Yes.
All right. Uber update.
Yeah. Uber doing a couple of things that I think are interesting. One, and we've all suffered this, where you summon an Uber, the driver responds, and you're looking at his path to you, and you notice that he's not making progress.
It's still 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's still 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's still 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's been 15. It's still 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
then suddenly cancel.
Yeah. You know, that they're giving some guaranteed pickup times, especially with kind of their carpooling one, where you take advantage of that opportunity, and you're now really in a limbo state where, what if the first person isn't ready? And they're basically saying, if we're not there in a certain amount of time, we'll get you, but the ride is free. The other thing, and this is a biggie in my mind, is the ability to schedule rides. That this is number one. Uber is now actually bigger than car rentals for business travelers, and that's one of those requirements. I was down in Newport News, Virginia, the other week, and I took Uber from the airport to my meeting, and it was about a $25 ride. I was heading back to the airport the next morning, and I had to leave the hotel at about 4 o'clock. And I didn't know if an Uber was going to be available. And so rather than take that chance and then be stuck and not be able to find a cab, I made a cab reservation, and cabbie was there on time and charged me double what Uber would have charged. If I had the ability to secure a reservation from Uber and a driver's going to commit to saying, yeah, I'll be there, that I would have used Uber. So I think it's an important capability for business users, and even just the ability to time things. You sit there and you're playing this game. Oh, I see cars are available, but I'm not ready for it. That I think it extends the convenience in a significant way.
Right, but you're only a part of the Uber user experience, because there's another user of Uber, which is the driver. And I remember having a conversation with a driver who took me from the Stamford train station to my house, and he would have loved to be able to schedule a pickup to go back from Westchester to Connecticut.
Yes.
And that would be valuable for him.
Yes.
And so it's not just about our convenience, but you want a happy ecosystem. You want happy riders, but you also want happy drivers. Yeah,
and the drivers are on thin enough margins that increasing utilization will
adding more certainty.
Yes.
I think is a key factor for the drivers.
Yes.
Because if they know that, and I know that there's a whole science to how car services, because I take car service to the airport, I take car service whenever, because for the very reason that I want to make sure that I want to get to the airport at a certain time, which means I need somebody to pick me up at a certain time, and that has to be guaranteed. And so it's about, but they know that car is going to take me to the airport. They've already scheduled somebody for that car to get a return trip or go somewhere else. So it's the certainty, it's the predictability of that
scare the auto manufacturers. They're making bold statements about how they need to embrace this economy, but the bottom line is, within 5 years, car sales are going to be down 20%. Pick a number. If you short Ford and GM today and it works for you, thank you. You're welcome for the stock tip. I am not a stock picker, but boy, there are a whole bunch of people today who own cars who don't need to own cars. I'm getting, my mother at 89 still drives, and it's like, why do you drive, Mom? I'm going to get you a smartphone. I'll tag it to my account with what she's paying in car insurance. She can take Uber everywhere she goes and not need to own a car. And there are a lot of people in that.
Right. And it's not even, look, there's a whole generation that's growing up not even thinking about owning a car. But that's one piece of the equation. The other piece of the equation is I have 2 cars. Do I need 2 cars? I have 2 cars because I have 2 drivers who need to go where they want to go.
Right.
I don't drive a car that much. Do I really need that second car, or do I just take Uber when I'm moving?
Right. And when you figure what car insurance costs you a couple of $100 a month, I don't know how well you drive, but well, you've got young drivers. Your insurance is about to your insurance is about to go up, and you think that how many car service rides you can take in lieu of just the insurance payment, let alone depreciation, gas, and all of that kind of stuff.
All right, we're actually, I just looked at time, and we've been waxing poetic, which is awesome. But I wanted to get to some of our regular features. In particular, I have a Cudo. I have a Cudo.
Wow.
I have a Cudo.
Yeah, it's rare that we do this.
You know, when you use a new technology, when you use product, there's a curve in terms of understanding how it works and being able to get value out of it quickly. I was in DC, I wanted to see the Mets play the Nationals, and I purchased tickets to see, to the game. I purchased 2 tickets. Then I realized that I wanted to have 3 people going. Now, it's a marketplace, so StubHub doesn't own the ticket, somebody else did, so I couldn't just return them. So I said, what do I do? I called up StubHub, and they said, oh, you can list them again. So here's where easing the process and making it, if I list them again, I'm gonna have to pay a fee for listing them and hope I get my price, and it's gonna cost me money. And then I'm gonna buy a new one and I'm gonna pay another fee.
Right.
They said, we're gonna basically waive this fee for you to sell it so you have so you can get your price back. And I'm gonna give you a little credit towards the new one. So what they did was, I mean, not that you always have to give away something for nothing, but what they did was they made my experience so comfortable in 2 pieces of it. I've now bought and sold on StubHub.
Yeah.
And it was easy and painless, and in the end, it worked out perfectly for me. That's a win.
And the only people who hate that are the sports teams themselves, who, you look at what the Yankees, for instance, what they're doing to StubHub. That they are requiring physical tickets, and StubHub has had to set up an exchange center that's over half a mile away from the stadium. So the seller has to go there to drop off their tickets, and the buyer, you can't get right off the subway and go into the stadium, because the teams, if you buy a ticket on the secondary market, if the game's not sold out, the team views that as they are losing a sale, and they
are losing a sale.
Well, yes and no, because there are a whole bunch of people who have bought season tickets, for instance. Anticipation, they'll be able to sell some of those tickets, maybe even at a premium, at the very least, defraying their cost in the season ticket.
Right.
And when they start to impede that piece of the market, if they see their season ticket sales go down, I think there are some things, we'll have to see how the economics play out, but I think the teams are taking a short-sighted view, and that market efficiencies are powerful forces. I mean, that's why a lot of teams have moved to variable pricing. It used to be, you went to a baseball game, if you saw the Mets playing the Milwaukee Brewers in September when they were hopelessly out of it, it cost you the same.
Who was hopelessly out? They were both hopelessly out.
It cost you the same as a Yankee Red Sox game in late September.
Right.
So that they've gotten a lot smarter about, maybe we can charge more for those premium occasions. So I think there are ways the teams can better allocate their economic resources and take advantage of data and market mobility, and impeding that because they're not ready for it. We saw what happened to the music industry with that. That you either embrace it and figure out how to monetize it yourself, or you get rendered irrelevant and eviscerated. And I think that
I believe we call that
teams,
disruption.
yes, we do. We do.
We haven't mentioned disruption in a long time.
Yeah. Other than the top of every show.
At the top of every show. All right, we've got a couple of interesting factoids, which I'd love to talk about. In particular, your research about
what we spend time doing on our mobile phones.
yes.
Number one with a bullet, Facebook, ding, 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 ding. Mobile users spend about 30 minutes a day on Facebook. I think we're above average.
I think we're above average.
Yeah, but second, and a distant second, is Snapchat, where I bet we're below average.
Below average.
Yes, yeah, above age, below average.
But the interesting thing about that is that the reason why Snapchat time is second is one of the reasons why I don't use Snapchat, is that the consumption scale is not beneficial to me. It takes too long to consume content on Snapchat.
Yes, but Snapchat's 8.5 minutes, YouTube 8 minutes a day, Instagram a little over 7 minutes a day. So Facebook is a machine.
Yeah. Oh, so is Google apparently, because you get to do Dr. Evil. Gmail now has more.
Over 1 billion. I never, is it, is it the pinky or the?
Yes, it's the pinky.
Yeah,
1 billion.
In fact, Google has multiple products at 1 billion users a day, and that includes Gmail, Search, Android, Google Maps, Chrome, YouTube, and Google Play, their iTunes Store competitor. That's pretty amazing reach when you think about it. 1 billion people a day using these things.
All right, how about an app? An app you love?
Except it's not an app.
It's not an app.
I actually have hardware lust. It's been a long time since
hardware
I've had
lust.
Hardware lust. I saw some.
No, I just can't go there.
Go ahead. This is a family show. Yeah. Okay, kids, avert your eyes. Uncle Alan's about to say something.
I just thought that was like a title of a potential entertainment media.
Yeah. Hardware love. Yeah.
Hardware lust.
Yeah, hardware lust. Yeah.
Okay.
Was it Captain and Tennille did Muskrat love?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Anyhow, my birthday is coming up, and
yes,
maybe I ought to start a Kickstarter or something.
No, GoFundMe.
GoFundMe, yes.
Yeah, GoFundMe.
Several, well, Kickstarter, I'll find some business application for it.
Right.
Because for $1,350, Dell is selling a 43-inch monitor that can behave as 4 separate monitors, all with integrated connectors, so you can connect one device up, feeding multiple times or multiple devices each on a quarter of the screen. You can blow it up to 2 half-screen things or one thing taking over all 43 inches. And it's like, yeah, I'm this close to buying kind of one of those double monitor kind of setups, or at the very least.
Oh, I have. I have 2 monitors
set
up. I have a 21-inch and a wide. I guess it's maybe 27-inch.
Yeah.
But that's not.
Yeah, 43 inch. Yeah. $1,350.
All right. So before we wrap up, let's go with our quote of the month.
This, depending upon your perspective, is either terribly scary or actually somewhat reassuring. Yeah. A government accounting office, GAO report on technology noted that agencies reported using several systems that have components that are, in some cases, at least 50 years old. When I was but a wee lad, when you were but a glimmer, yeah.
I was wrong.
Oh, okay. So beyond a glimmer, but you were. I won't go there, but among those systems, it includes our nuclear weapons system that runs on an IBM Series 1 mini computer with 16K of memory and an 8-inch floppy disk. The reason why I say I like the security of it, how many of you have things that can read? You know, you get the floppy disk. It's like, what am I going to put it in?
And they're not internet connected, and they're really tough to hack. That's good.
Yeah. Modernizing it as soon as next year, although anytime with government modernization next year causes me to go, I don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today on Pardon My Disruption. I'm Alan Berkson, along with Jonathan Yarrmis. We're here the second Friday of every month in the beautiful downtown Stamford, the Stamford Innovation Center. Our next show will be a birthday show for the doctor on July 8th. We hope to see you all there, and thank you for joining us.